Hello everyone, my name is Arnold, and today we're back down here at the server shelf. The last time I toured this place was around August, but you never saw that video because I never uploaded it. That's my bad. I'm actually just uploading it right now as I'm recording this, and it's December. So, but that's okay because there hasn't really been too much that's changed down here. The one thing of note, or maybe two things of note, are the laptop now has macOS 12 Monterey installed on it. That's for Time Machine backups, because I have a couple of Macs, a Hackintosh. I put macOS on my ThinkPad X1 as well, and I ordered a 2016 MacBook Pro off of eBay that's coming next week. So that'll be useful, and for AirMessage, because I have an Android phone, and receiving iMessage on this would be pretty cool. The only other thing is, I guess, up here, the old Hitron cable modem for my ISP is gone and replaced with, I think they call it an XI1, or no, XB6. I'm talking about their TV receiver. We upgraded to gigabit internet. That's about it. Although it's not really gigabit, when I run speed tests, it's only about 400 or 500 megs a second, which sucks. But I'm in a rural area, so I probably won't be able to get gigabit speeds no matter how many times I call their support number. That's okay, because it's still cheaper than what we were paying for 300. I guess there's also a bunch of paper down there now. It's all organized a little bit better for the printer. Yeah, and that's about it. What I'm recording here today is the installation of this Silicon Power 512 gig SATA SSD into melchior1, into this drive bay right here. The other drive bays have 3 terabyte WD hard drives in them, and they're currently set up with 1 as parity and 2 as storage in UnRAID, so for a total of 6 terabytes with 1 drive of redundancy. And I've heard that if you also install an SSD and put it into the pool as a cache drive, it can actually drastically improve your performance when reading and writing to it, especially with files that you use pretty often. Now, I have gigabit speeds throughout the house, like a gigabit LAN. The switches are all gigabit, and most of the cabling now is Cat6. So I am really being bottlenecked. Actually, no, that's not even true. I might be bottlenecked by the CPU. No. NAS, actually, because it's from 2012, and the single core speeds really aren't that great. So I guess today we're going to find out if I'm being bottlenecked by the hard disk, or the hard disks rather, their writing and reading speeds, or by the server itself. Because what we're going to do is install this, configure it as a cache drive, and basically how that works in UnRAID is you read and write directly to the SSD when you're moving and copying and using files. And then later on, a worker process goes and moves those over to the big storage disks later. And what it will do is, I haven't done too much research because I wanted this to be kind of unscripted. I'm thinking that it will just leave like smaller but heavily used files on the SSD. No. It might copy them over to like make some redundancy, but I don't know. All I know is that the big stuff, once it gets copied over, it gets deleted from the cache drive to make room for new stuff. stuff that's, not heavily, big stuff that's not heavily used, gets deleted off of the drive. Now, I did actually try this once before with a 64 gig SSD, and either I configured it completely wrong, or a 64 gig SSD is simply too small for a 6 terabyte array, because when I configured it and tried to run something, it completely halted and wouldn't let me access any of my files. And also all of my Docker containers and virtual machines crashed. So that wasn't fun. I immediately just took it out and unconfigured the cache drive and never really went back. But now that I've got this half terabyte SSD, maybe it'll work a little bit better. I also forgot to mention before my Docker containers. Those, I think, will default to using the cache drive as well, which will improve the working speeds of those. That'll be especially useful, I think, for Nextcloud as well. So, before we actually go ahead and install the SSD, we should probably have a benchmark. There we go. And I'll grab my YubiKey. I think that's also something that I configured that's different from last time. You can sign in with a YubiKey now to the server. It's pretty convenient. Let's move in a little bit closer here. There we go. So on Balthazar1 here, there is an MDT server, which is Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and that does Pixie Boot for the network. And on here is a fuck ton of ISOs for Windows. There's Server, there's Windows 11, there's Windows 10, multiple editions of Windows 10, and then there's duplicates of all those that are preloaded with a bunch of apps. So, previously I made an ISO. What you can do with MDT is either export it to a Pixie Boot server or export it to an ISO. And I exported only the images, only the Windows images that have preloaded apps, so stuff that I touched, like Firefox and other crap. So when you install it, all that stuff is already there. All of those images I put into this ISO. It's called Light Touch Media, and it is a whopping 49.5 gigs. Yeah. I think I had an ISO that was every single image, including all of the stock factory ones, and it was around 68 gigs. So, sorry, not 68 gigs, 71 gigs about. So what we're gonna do is copy this. This is located on an SSD, by the way, locally on the server. It's a Samsung 860 EVO, maybe? I forget. It's an SSD though, SATA 3. So what I'm going to do is copy this to the NAS into the OS's folder here and see how long it takes. We'll put a timer on screen now. So as you can see, it is writing at about 112 megs a second, it looks like. which, correct me if I'm wrong, is gigabit. Because 1 gigabit, I believe, is 100 megabytes. But there is a little bit of ambiguity here with the Windows copier, because there are different processes in Windows that use megabytes and mebibytes interchangeably. So honestly, I don't know how fast that is. I don't think it's megabits, but I don't really exactly know. I could probably Google it, but I don't really exactly know how much data is being transferred per second here. Although it looks like it is fairly consistent and fairly fast. Now, if 112 megabytes per second is about gigabit speeds, there really isn't that much of a point to installing the cache drive, although maybe it would be better for the Docker containers to run on the SSD. Oh, and if you're wondering, the UnRAID operating system actually boots off of a flash drive every single time the machine starts up. It doesn't start from any of the disks or from an internal drive. It actually uses a flash drive. And once it boots, it moves everything into RAM and then runs completely independently just from RAM, which is honestly pretty smart. That means that the operating system is always going to be the fastest thing on the system. And uh-oh, we're down to about 20 megs a second. You know what? You know what that could have been? This could be actually writing to the drives now. What? Again, I haven't done any research, so this is a completely batshit crazy theory. But this part, where it was writing at actual gigabit speeds, it might have been just going into RAM on the NAS, because there is 72 gigs of memory in the NAS, of which about, I think, maybe 15 to 20 is already being used for Docker containers and, you know, the operating system. So that's my guess, is that it was writing into memory, but then the memory filled up. Actually, you know what? We can check that. We can open up Firefox here. And we can see the RAM usage here. Usable size is 70.8 gigs. And it has 8% utilization. So, completely disregard everything I just said, because it's clearly not writing to RAM. Although you can see here the inbound on the network interface. It's 300 megabits a second, and yeah, this is going at about 30 to 40 megabytes per second. So I wonder then, why was it transferring at gigabit for this portion, but then dropped like a cliff? Cut the speeds into, I don't know, eighths like a pizza. It's more like half, but let me Google really quickly. The drives that are in here are, I believe, 5400 RPM. So WD Blue 5400 RPM write speed. Look at the data sheet. I have the 3 terabyte. From the buffer to the host, 6 gigabits a second. How big is the buffer? If buffer is the same thing as cache, then cache is only 64 megs. It looks like host 2 from drive sustained is about 147 megabytes a second. So for the first little bit there, we were being bottlenecked by the network, because it's only gigabit, and this is about a gigabit and a half. But then it dropped, and it's staying there. So I don't know what the hell's going on. This is gonna take fucking forever. So I'm gonna pause, and we'll be back when this file transfer is done. Okay, we're finally back. It's been 12 minutes since I stopped recording, and it's actually a good thing that I did stop, because I was about to run out of storage on my phone. Had to switch to HEVC, or whatever, reduce the file size. Anyway, we've got our 51 gigabyte ISO file in the OS's folder on my NAS now. And yeah, it was sitting at around 40 to 50 megs a second after I stopped, which is unacceptable. We must try and fix this. A cache drive might just be the solution. So, first, now since this is a rack server, and it's a pretty good rack server, it supports hot swapping drives. Now, the only caveat with that is that UnRAID doesn't.
No.
So you still have to reboot anyway. But it also means that the system won't immediately power off when you remove a drive or a sled. So we don't need to turn off the system yet. This is empty anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you can press in the eject button. Get this thing out of here. And okay, we got our dusty ass work table here. Now, many moons ago, when I purchased this NAS, I was talking about that 64 gigabyte SSD. That's actually what it came with in the first sled, and that was very convenient because it included this handy dandy 3.5 inch to 2.5 inch SATA adapter. So first we should probably open up the SSD and just make sure everything's in frame. It is. Oh shit. So, open this up. If you're wondering where that 64 gig SSD is now, it's actually in the T450. Surprisingly, macOS Monterey is only about 12 gigs. So, the only bad thing about that is that all the Time Machine backups that I'm doing over the network to that system happen over USB to an external hard drive, which isn't really that big of a deal because it's just backups. But it doesn't need to be lightning fast. Should probably install the SSD. It's pretty standard, plastic, flimsy. It works. And install the screws. Shit. If I recall correctly, this screwdriver is actually too fat to fit in. It's screwed down. Maybe I'm just bad. Yep, it's too fat. I will be right back with a skinnier screwdriver. Okay. I'm back with the Wow Stick. Crazy, right? Who has the time to manually screw in an electronic screw when you can just hold down a button and do it? Although it does come with a shitload of bits. I'm trying to find... Where is it? There. This guy. The big head. Should be able. It's too big. There we go. Now sometimes the little electric motor that's in here is actually too weak to screw stuff in, so you kind of have to torque it yourself. Almost looks like this screw is jammed. Oh, it's going in fine. Oh. I'm putting in the wrong screws. I was putting in the ones that are supposed to go there, that are fatter. My bad. I have to go find a bunch more of these. So I could actually only find one more. But I think that's okay. Because SSDs don't move anyway, so it's not like it's going to be rattling around. One screw in one and another in the opposite corner should be just fine. There we go. That's not going anywhere. Okay. Let's put this guy in the sled. Fun fact, I think 2 of the drives in the NAS are held in by double-sided tape instead of screws, because I couldn't find, or rather, the correct screws were not included with the server. I bought it second-hand off of a local guy, and it came with the sleds, but it didn't come with any drives, and so it didn't come with any screws. Except for this one, because there's an SSD already in it. Now I could have just ordered more screws, I guess, but I haven't had any issues yet. So I think the double-sided tape is fine. All right. I'm trying to get the screws as flush as possible, because if you don't and they jut out, then you're gonna have a bad time getting it back out. The sled, I mean. You're gonna have a bad time if you wanna ever take it out. I think that'll do. Alright. Man, this thing's dusty. So, let's go ahead and put this in the server. Come on. Hello? The screw over here is jutting out too much, and it won't go in. I'm just gonna take them out. It doesn't matter, you don't need all 4 of them. 2 is perfectly enough. Alright. Green light. Hell yeah. Although not really, because we still have to reboot UnRAID, I think.
No.
At least in my experience, you do. I can go to main here. and we can see that there is no drive detected. Now what we can try is Googling UnRAID SATA hot swap. Aha. I didn't stop the array before I put the disk in. My dog's barking, I'll be right. Okay, so what I'll try is maybe, let's see, what Docker applications do I have going here? Yeah, I think I can take this down. Let's hit stop. And we'll see. Maybe it'll refresh and it'll show up. Who knows? I just really hate rebooting this thing because it takes forever. You know, servers love to take their time. Okay, and lo and behold, unassigned devices, SPCC solid state disk. That is what we like to see. So, let's add that as a cache device. What does this do? Add pool. Ah. I don't know what that means. Let's go ahead and start the array. So I think my theory is probably correct about the last time I tried to do a cache drive, is that it was just too small and the mover was running too infrequently. Unmountable disk present. Format will create a file system in all unmountable disks. Format the cache drive. Cool. So the array is started. We can go to our shares here. Actually, okay, it's still joined. Every time there's a power outage, because I'm too cheap to get a UPS, even though I really should. Every time there's a power outage, it disconnects. Well, for one, the array doesn't automatically start, so I have to go do that manually, and then I have to go and re-hook it up to Active Directory, because if I don't, then I can't access it from any Windows machine, because all the file permissions are set using Active Directory instead of the built-in users here. So let's go to mine here. Use cache pool for new files and directories. Yes. indicates that all new files and subdirectories should be written to the cache disk/pool, provided enough free space exists. If there's insufficient space on the disk, then new files and directories are made on the array. When the mover is invoked, files and subdirectories are transferred off of it and onto the array. I see. So that means that when you're reading from the array, like if you're copying to the disk before the mover goes and moves it off, it'll be the read speed of the drive, the read speed of the hard disk. Prefer indicates that all new files and subdirectories should be written to the cache disk and pool, provided enough free space exists. There's insufficient space. Aha. So the prefer one means that, that was probably, this is probably what I didn't read the last time that I was doing it, and why the SSD immediately, the old SSD immediately filled up. I selected prefer. The only difference between prefer and yes is that files and subdirectories are transferred off the array onto the cache disk. Meaning that the SSD is used almost exclusively. Almost. Let's not do that. Let's say yes. Apply. Okay. Oh, you know why this guy didn't say what Docker should, how to configure Docker for it, is because Docker is literally just contained in app data. App data. Application data. Use cache pool for new files and directories. How big is the app data directory? If it's not that large, then I'll click prefer, and that means the mover will transfer everything Docker related onto the SSD, which would be great, because I don't really want Docker using the hard disks. You know, if it's a few hundred megs, maybe a gig or two, then I have no problem. But if for some fucking reason, well, I mean, there is, well, no. Oh, yes. Yes, there is. There is a, oh, I lied. I was gonna say, there is a CSGO server that I run on Pterodactyl, and I can't remember if that's hosted, because there's two Pterodactyl servers. There's this one here, and then there's a VPS that I rent. And I guess it's running on the VPS, because CSGO is a 30 gig game, and the Docker app data is only 4.69. 4.69 gigs. So, and I'm using a terabyte. That's crazy. Why is saved VM instances 167 gigs when I do not have any virtual machines? I'll have to check that out later. But I'll put this to prefer. What happens when I put only? There's insufficient free space on the cache disk and will create operations will fail. Let's say prefer. Because I don't... If the SSD fills up, then I don't want all of the containers to crash, like what happened last time. Oh, wait a minute, there's a separate pterodactyl folder. It's 20 gigs. Man, I'll be real, I have no clue what the fuck is on my NAS. Why is the NC folder 7.27 gigs? Anyway, let's configure that mover. There's a scheduler thing here. Let's do daily at 4:20 a.m. Let's enable logging as well. And what the hell, let's, well, yeah, we should go ahead and stop all my Docker containers before, because it said, I remember this now, oh, I've been zoomed in this whole time, my bad. It said before that, it will not act on files that are, the mover will not act on files that are currently being used. So running Docker containers would not be touched. And I want the mover to touch them. Touch them all over. Are the containers stopping or what? I guess they are, because a couple of them are gone. Stop all. Guess we'll wait. Okay, all the containers are stopped. Let's go back to settings and make it move. This'll probably take a while. So I'll come back when this is done moving. I also kind of lied to you all before when I said there isn't many changes that happened, because there's these now. These used to be up on top, up there, but now they're wall mounted and they have labels. And this one is coming off the wall. For some reason. I also made a bunch of brand new cables. Those are Cat 6. And those are going all over the place. It's making cable management a little bit easier. A switch, that's for, and I forget now. I'm pretty sure the A switch is connecting, this one's the router, this one's, I think this one's going to, oh my bad. This one's a router, I think this one's going to an access point. These two are going up to a desk. One's a work PC, one's a personal PC. And then that one's going somewhere. That one might be going to my bedroom. Although that cable is lost now. It's been fished up through the vent. There was an access point in there, but we took it out when we renovated. And the cable fell down the vent. And I couldn't fish it back out. So that's useless now. And then B switch is connecting all this. And then this is the C switch. I've shown this before, Cisco 2950. It's really old. It's good for managing cables. If I ever need to image 47 computers at once, it'll be good. And there's a D switch upstairs in my office. And soon, very soon, there'll be an E switch. Because with this new fiber internet, not really fiber bullshit, and not really gigabit bullshit, all the TVs, instead of using good old-fashioned coax cable, now connect to Wi-Fi, which sucks ass. And we've had tons of problems with, interruptions, drops in quality, stuff like that. Luckily, you can wire them into Ethernet, but this house was built in the 70s. So there's no Ethernet runs throughout the house. It's all coax. And we're not paying $200 like 5 times to get Mocha adapters. So whether they're going to use existing Ethernet cables that we fished or fish new ones and put switches around to connect up all the TVs via Ethernet, because it's a lot more reliable. The mover is still running.
1 hour later.
So, it's been about, an hour or so since the mover started moving, and looks like it's done. Go to main here and see that 4.5 gigs are being used on the SSD now. I would assume that is all just Docker data. I haven't actually used any files on my NAS since it's been done. So let's start up our Docker containers. This should take not as long as it usually does. It usually takes about 15 or 20 minutes. But that's also a cold start. As soon as, when there's a power outage, as soon as the array starts, all the Docker containers try to start. So looks like some of them are starting, as we got CPU and memory load. Yep, those are all going. They're all spinning. Now, something that I didn't take into account when I did that initial, holy shit. I don't know why that says 3 out of 4. There's only 3 in here. Holy shit, that was fast. Holy balls. Just goes to show you what an SSD can do for you. Holy crap. This used to take like upwards of 10 minutes to get all of them started. And that happened in a minute. And this is what, 10, 12, 14 containers. Wait, what? 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. Sorry, I can't do math. 15 containers. But in 1 minute. That's crazy. That's insane. it's going good so far. Let's try and copy a file. Let's see here. I don't have that 50 gig ISO on the NAS. Or sorry, I don't have it on my local, on my main PC here. I do have it on a flash drive that I could plug in, but then I'd be bottlenecked by the USB speeds. Fuck it, let's just move. Let's take the ISO off of my flash drive, and let's then move it to the NAS.
5 million years later.
Okay, so the copy is done. Now we just copy it again. I'm actually going to cut it because I don't want this taking up precious space on my drive. Huh, still 80 gigs free. Anyway. Applications, OS. Let's go ahead and delete the other one. And copy the new one. And I was completely wrong. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I thought this was the speed. That's not the speed, that's the total. 112 megabytes a second. That's about the same as we saw before the SSD. But with the SSD, will it drop back down to like 30 or 40 again? If it can maintain 112, 110, even 100 for the entire duration of the copy, then that's still an improvement. And it's done. Wow. I'll I wasn't timing it myself, but there will be a timer on screen. Whatever that number is that you're looking at right now, I bet it's a hell of a lot lower than the one that was there before. So I'd call that a success. Successful install of a cache disk into an UnRAID array. And I didn't even have to turn off the server. I'm very impressed. Very, very impressed. Thank you for watching. This has been Zarnold. If you are interested in continuing to see my tech shenanigans, then please do subscribe. Like the video if you want. Comment if you have like ideas of stuff you want me to do. I have a little bit of a list that I'll get through eventually. Yeah. These videos aren't monetized, so there's no sponsor, there's no ads. Yeah, that's about it. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.